So, I figured I would make another video today. This time, making your own CLI. I figured I'll just make one video per feature that we have in the documentation. And yeah, let's just jump straight into it. So, first we're going to create a basic project, as always. We're just going to call it Tauri app. npm vanilla TypeScript. As usual, we don't have the dependencies because I am so special. Dev container into Tauri app. Then we open the Tauri app. For those of you who don't know bash commands, what I just did was just copy this dev container folder into the project, because that's where we're going to be doing the actual development. Nowadays I always develop inside dev containers, ever since I figured out how nice they can be. Sometimes that fails, usually it's a good idea to start it again. Oh, god damn it. Why can't stuff just work when I'm gonna stream? Well, at least it gives me an opportunity to show you how to fix these kinds of problems, so I guess that's good. What you want to do, this will fix most issues with dev containers. Just BSL shut down, and Docker test desktop will restart. We just verify that we have the Docker command, because that has sometimes not worked for me, not sure why. Code projects Tauri app. Now we're just gonna reopen in container. And what do you know? Seems to work just fine. So what we're gonna do now is first we're going to run cargo Tauri dev so that we get started on building. What do you mean? Oh, right. It's a JavaScript project. You need your dependencies installed. That's a thing. See, I've said it before and I say it again. This is why I hate Rust Analyzer. I'm going to assume that this is just related to having to build again. Alright. I've actually set up the dev container for alpha development. So we're gonna have to remake the project, which is a good thing that you got to know now. But that's also a thing you need to be aware of. You need to use alpha when you're using my dev container. It's non-optional, because otherwise the dependencies will not be correct. And then we're going to VBR dev container into Tauri app, code Tauri app, open folder in container. I just noticed that we have privileged remaining from previous stream, and we shouldn't have that, but it's fine. Thank you for not forcing me to restart VSL again. There we go. Okay, and now we can. Maybe we can be. Come on, be faster than Rust Analyzer. Damn it! Rust Analyzer started. Rust Analyzer. Bad boy. There we go. Cargo Tauri dev. And as per freaking usual. See, Rust Analyzer sucks. This is honestly one of the biggest reasons why I really liked working in IntelliJ, because this was never an issue in IntelliJ. That Rust plugin is just leagues and miles better than Rust Analyzer. Rust Analyzer to me feels really hacky. It just causes issues. And the code completion isn't even as good as it is in the IntelliJ. On. Well, I guess we can get started on something else while that is being a pain. So let's just read up on what we're supposed to do here. So, to enable the CLI through CLAP and robust argument parser. So, for those of you who don't know, CLAP is another project that Tauri uses to provide you with one of the most powerful argument parsers available in Rust right now, or at least one of the most popular ones. And we are just going to... Oh god. I need to change that at some point. There's a neat little feature in Windows that lets you switch tabs with Alt-Tab. That is going to annoy the crap out of me. Anyway, so we saw that that config is inside Tauri. Here we have Tauri. And we're just gonna copy paste that. Thankfully, Rust Analyzer has released its death grip on our build folder, so now we can finally actually build this, I say, and apparently we can't. What does it say? I'm assuming it's because of what I added. Oh, right. See, this is one of the documentation things we should be improving. I had a user in the Tauri Discord talk about this with me, and I completely agree. When you're just getting started and you just want to set up these kinds of simple features to try them out, the fact that you have to clean them up at all or understand them is horrible in terms of making sure you get users up and running quickly. We should just have this part so it's easy to copy paste, because these comments that they have, yes, they're nice, but since I couldn't compile the project with them in, I'm forced to clean this up. And I know this is just meant as descriptions and whatnot, but these aren't needed. We have the full configuration documentation right here, like command description, which will be shown with the help. That window is looking a lot weirder than it usually does. Why is it looking that weird? Oh god, it's because we ran it with privileged, I assume. No, wait, it didn't do that before. I'm just gonna do this. This is the only change I've made that could possibly result in that error. If you ever run into this issue, restart at least once or twice, because usually it's just related to VS Code restarting a little bit too fast, and Docker just needs a second to remove the previous container. And yeah, let's see if it works better now. Yes, we were faster than Rust Analyzer. I'm not entirely sure why with Global Tauri is on. That should be off. Because, yeah, I think that template might need an update. Anywho, I'm still not certain why cargo decides to fetch that much that slowly. Didn't do that the previous run. It's weird. You're telling me it's blocking now because Rust Analyzer ruined something? I'm going to be... Oh, thank God. Okay, now we have a normal looking window. It's scared there for a while. Well, now we have a basic window up and running, right? So how do we test this? Well, let's start by actually re-enabling that. So since we're using the alpha, we've gone over to a different way of setting up the main function. So before you had your app directly in main, but because primarily Android, I believe maybe iOS as well, but primarily Android that I know of, can't actually handle you building a binary directly and running. So you need to run it as a library, so it just makes more sense to put all of your code in the library file. And if we just look at the documentation, part of why I'm doing this is to find room for improvement. We'll actually jump all the way to the bottom first, which makes sense, right? Because now we're going to just paste that in there. And what this will do is it'll run in the setup function. We have access to the app. We get CLI matches. And we find our matches okay if there are any matches. So let's try to run again. And we should be seeing it print something fairly empty. As you can see, no arguments were matched because we don't actually have a subcommand added or any arguments. So what we're going to add now, I think, is going to be one of the primary things I actually use the CLI for. I won't go through the entire setup for it, but I will show you here, for example. Name, we're just gonna do that. Weird that doesn't autocomplete. And I usually use it for authentication purposes. And that's because Tauri doesn't always work very nicely with deep linking and stuff like that. One way of getting around that in some cases is to use a CLI tool, because a lot of these frameworks offer CLI verification, just not stuff that goes straight into via a web solution into Tauri. So this is one way to set up authentication for various services that offer CLI versions. I believe Google, for example, offers the CLI version. Now, I haven't set this up all the way, but this is the kind of thing that I'm like with Google. I've set it up for a custom backend. But we can maybe set up a little argument here. Take a let's do that. Let's just take first one. Still really wish this would autocomplete. It might be just install my extensions. And now if we run it, we should see something different in the matches. Subcommand none, and that's perfectly correct. I think it's 2 times you have to do that in order to go into, yeah, there, because so the first time we do this, the 2 dashes, it actually exits out of the Tauri command, and you start to supply commands to, let's see, I believe it's first that you exit to supplying stuff to cargo, to the cargo build process, and if you do it a second time, you actually exit it out into your own binary, which is why we can now see that we have all of these things that we can handle. And if we were to handle that, do we have an example of that? I'm pretty sure we don't. Again, room for improvement here. So matches here is a struct with args and subcommands. Args is hash map and subcommand is option box, where subcommand is a struct. Okay. And subcommands. So do matches dot sub command, and fill that out. And this makes sense, by the way, because we have an option, so it's some or none, which has a box with subcommand matches. So here we have matches again, and here we have a context. And subcommand matches is a struct with name and matches. So we're just gonna debug matches. This. The reason, by the way, why I reuse the command or the variable name is because I purposefully overwrite it so that we don't mix them up later for moving purposes. Not a big deal. It's just sometimes it makes it easier to handle it. There we can see that we are at the level of having subcommand matches, just like it says here, with the name of and everything else. So we can do matches again. I believe. No. Matches dot name. Actually, we can probably just if matches dot name equals. I wonder what name is if that is a string. I'm assuming it is. So there we go. Now we are authenticating. So now you can see that in order to set up command handling or CLI handling inside the Rust end, we set up the setup function, we match against the CLI matches, we match the matches if it's some or none. This is not the only way to do it, by the way. You don't have to use match. You can use if some or if is some and then unwrap it, for example. It's just one way of doing it. It ends up pretty readable, in my opinion. We don't actually need that anymore, because I'm not going to actually develop this. I'm just showing off how to handle it. So in here, write authentication logic, and then we don't want this to continue past this point. Let's see, is it exit? I want to say that it's exit, but it might be close. Oh god. When in doubt, just go to the Rust documentation, and it should be in here. Sit exit. Close. Oh. What the hell is that again? I forgot the command. Wait, you can't exit the app. You can exit the app, but I have really forgotten entirely how to exit. Yeah, app handle exit. Why does just the app handle? Okay. Handle.exit 0. Don't need to return. And here we should see that it prints we are authenticating and then exits, just like it did. So this is how you make a command. Say that I'm going to now source Tauri target debug Tauri app auth. As you can see, we are authenticating, and when I remove auth, we should see. Oh right, that's because we still have the to do here. I'm just gonna do that, and dev. Just so I can show it off. Just show off the difference. So now it's built with the dev command. If we run the app directly with auth, we are authenticating and then it exits. And if we just run the app, congratulations, it's popping up. The reason we're getting an error here, by the way, is because this is still the debug version, so it expects us to have a server running like on localhost, but we're not running that because yeah. So this is how you do it in the Rust end to set up a CLI. The next variant we'll look at, because I know there's some weirdos out there that like doing it, is how to set it up in JavaScript. And the process is pretty similar. I'm just gonna do that for now, and then cargo Tauri dev. launch. Always launches on the wrong screen. Oh god, no. Come on. Don't do me dirty. Oh no. I'm gonna have to think it's enough that I rebuild the container. Not entirely sure why it happens, but it can happen that it just refuses to actually show the window. Not sure why that happens. I'm hoping that if I make the dev container something official, then I can get some more people to experience this problem. We can pester the other members of the working group about it, and eventually we'll get a fix. But for now, I'm just gonna try restarting or rebuilding, and hopefully that fixes it. No idea why it has to fetch everything again. Or why it's that slow. My internet is way faster. This is like barely like a 20th of my actual speed. Which, by the way, never get tricked again by a an internet service provider saying, "Oh, we're gonna give you 100, up and down speed." Doesn't matter. People don't supply you with 100 speed. You're not gonna get the 100 speed. I mean, you can have 100 gigabytes. It doesn't matter. Because if cargo crates.io doesn't provide me with 100 gigabytes per second, what am I gonna do paying for 100 gigabytes per second? It's stupid. I would say that most people can pay for 10 megabytes per second. And that they'll be just fine. Like I would experience almost no difference from just having 10 megabytes per second. And it's not even related to that, oh, I'm just doing small stuff. No, it's just stuff doesn't take nearly as much as people seem to think. Fetching. I swear to God, Rust Analyzer, if you screw me again. And of course, no. Rebuilding was not enough. Then we can close. And we can use our trusty old catch-all fix for everything with containers. The reason, by the way, why I open a terminal is just because that ensures that VSL is actually running, and the fact, of course, that I can... Actually, I don't need to open it like that. I can just open it like this. Because reopening will actually return you to the previous container you were in. I forgot to press restart on Docker desktop, which is why it's being annoying right now. As you could see, maybe briefly, is Docker desktop running? There we go. Okay. New attempt. Cargo Tauri dev. Not even debugging right now any Rust codes, we might as well just turn that off. And there we go! We're up and running. And thankfully we're going to be developing the JavaScript end now. So we can actually just open this and we don't have to worry about anything else. So this is roughly what I quite often do. Here we can see an object with args and subcommand, and that's because it didn't receive anything. So, alright, of course, I'm gonna have to rerun this with .o in order for us to actually get the object that we can work with. And thankfully it didn't crash that time. I think it might be that it has processes running in the background, like orphaned processes. But yeah, here you have subcommand matches. So what we can do here is if matches.subcommand. Let's see, what do we have in the subcommand? We have nameMouth. If matches.subcommand.name equals auth console log, we are authenticating. Now we can see we are authenticating again, but now we want to exit the app as well, because that's what we were doing in the Rust end, and as much as possible we want to ensure that whatever you can do in the Rust end, at least as far as the Tauri APIs are concerned, you should be able to do them in the JavaScript end. So if we look at JavaScript, we can find that there is an app module. Before we needed an app handle, so it makes sense that we would use the app. But that unfortunately isn't the case. Let's see, I don't remember which of these is actually terminate. I think it might be window, no. Process might be it, yes. So we need to import process. So here we have, we're actually just going to import that one, because otherwise it'll auto-run the part we don't want to run. And we do the following, and we have to do that. And as you can see, or maybe you can't see it. Okay. Process module is enabled. You must enable it. Alright, this is related to Tauri conf, where we have a really rigorous allow list. So here we need to enable process and set exit to true. So what this will do is just tell us that the process API endpoint, we're enabling the exit function. And this is because we want to... Oh. It might seem weird, but it exited immediately. You didn't see it because it was on the other screen, but when we had it with auth, it now just instantly disappeared, because as soon as the web view was loaded, it found the auth command and exited immediately. And now, without the auth command, it keeps running and you can see the window. The benefit of doing it in the Rust end is that not only is it more performant, but it actually runs before... Alright, it restarted, so I can't just Control-C to get it back. But, or Control-Z, or however you want to pronounce it. But doing it in the Rust end, it runs before the window opens. If you do it in the JavaScript end, it'll run when the web view is loaded. So do keep that in mind if you're going to do CLI matching in the JavaScript. I think that the Rust end is easy enough to handle, where, I mean, if you look at this code, we just copy paste that in here. Let's see, setup, and we can just copy paste that in, and now just look at this. So if you compare how it's done in JavaScript with how we would do this in Rust, let's take app.get matches. I believe it was CLI. Wasn't it app matches, or is it just... Yeah, exactly. It's oh right, that's why it didn't autocomplete correctly, because I need to have it actually running. Oh, goddammit, I'm gonna have to wait for it. And now that we have the matches, we can... wait for it to finish, or we can just write it ourselves. Seriously, Rust Analyzer performs so poorly. I mean, absolutely nothing wrong. Like, no shame on the people that made it, but Jesus Christ, do I wish it performed better. If we compare these two now, what do you have? Well, you have get matches, which is get CLI matches. Logical enough. And then we're running an asynchronous function if that we have matches, which is essentially, not literally, but essentially the same as us entering this context. Then we're saying if matches subcommand. Here we're getting the subcommand. That's the error I have. That's not the error. Oh. That's the part we want to wrap right. Why is it complaining? I think these look pretty much identical. What is your major malfunction? Oh, right, it's big. No. Oh wait, no. Never mind. It's the setup command. Another reason to hate Rust Analyzer. It was adamant that this was where I had the issue, but actually this is the issue, because the issue it was complaining at is that the setup function needs to return OK. This does not need to return OK. So what we're saying here is if matches subcommand. So here we have the matches. If matches dot subcommand actually, did I match first? Yeah, I did another match because we like matches, or did I? No. If matches dot subcommand dot name. God, what did I do last time? That's an option. Yeah. Matches dot. Oh right, it's because it's a subcommand that we're matching against, right? There we go. Do nothing because we want to start the app. Subcommand.name if equals auth. Console, not console log, print line. We are authenticating. Handle.exit because apparently app does not expose that. Let handle equals app.handle. So now, if we compare these again, this pretty damn similar to this. If matches subcommand, we're just saying if matches subcommand here, essentially. We're handling the unwrapping is pretty much what this is related to, getting some object out of it. So here we have verified that it is a subcommand. This none is essentially the else here. So none here is the else. So now we're in subcommand and we're just saying literally the same thing. If matches subcommand name, if subcommand name auth auth. Console log, print line, exit, exit. Although I chose 1 there for some reason. That's it. That is handling CLI arguments. Now, as a final little segment on this, kind of like critique to the team, we need to improve this part. It's not copy-paste friendly. these descriptions are completely redundant because we already have all those descriptions in the actual configuration. I do appreciate the effort, but I think that these are malplaced. It's better to link to the configuration instead and give us something we can copy paste. Handling should be further up because this is the next thing you copy paste. You don't copy paste these subcommands and whatnot after you. The next thing you want to actually see is that there's some output if I'm running it. So a more pedagogical, or however you say that in English, way of doing this is having this further up. Then we start working on adding arguments and stuff like that. Because at this point, like, I wouldn't copy this and then copy this, because at this point I'm not even sure what these do. Because I haven't seen the output, I don't know what it looks like. So yeah, I think those are the biggest things. The other thing that I would improve about this page is that in the configuration, that actually doesn't point to the proper place. It should be pointing straight to CLI config. And these options, like object here, that is just flat out wrong. Subcommands is an array of objects. So this is just incorrect. And a better way of writing something like that would probably be something along the lines of, now we're getting really hacky here. So what this should probably be is not just this, because this is a TypeScript notation for a list of, or an array of objects, but also it's specifically not just an object, it's a CLI arg. So if I had to improve this, I would say CLI arg here. So this makes a lot more sense. Or is it a CLI arg? It might actually be. I think it is a. Yeah, I do believe this is actually. Yeah. Yeah, I'm right. Or if it's a CLI config, then it should be, CLI config. But you get my point. This part of the documentation, there's a bit of improvement to be found. I do know that this is version 1, and we're working on version 2. I'm not entirely sure if we actually can just check here. For example, in the features, making your own CLI. See, for version 2, it's still in there. And, or next branch at least, I believe next branch is version 2. And if we go to, just to verify that the issue is still there, yeah, that links to the wrong place. And these are still not very good, so room for improvement. But anyway, that was my little stream on adding command line interface arguments to the Tauri app. Hope it was useful, and I'll see you in the next one.